It was described by one visitor when we went up online to take a look at what the visitors were saying as a wow. It is chock full of sports memorabilia and interactive sports exhibits to keep even the restless kiddies entertained for hours. A great place for family entertainment. We have three representatives today for the panel. Please welcome and hold your applause until I finish with all three. The Director of Exhibits, Programming, and Visitor Services for Canada Sports Hall of Fame, Janice Smith. Stephen Plattenberg of Cortina Productions. And Timothy Mansfield of Cambridge 7. Please welcome Canadia's Sports Hall of Fame. All yours, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. How many Canadians are in the audience? Do we have a couple? All right, this is for you. So, welcome. First of all, my name's Timothy Mansfield. I'm a partner at Cambridge 7 Associates. We're a architecture and exhibit design firm from Cambridge, Massachusetts.
I'm Stephen Plattenberg with Cortina Productions. We were the multimedia designer and lead media production company on the project.
And I'm Janice Smith, the Director of Exhibits, Programs, and Visitor Services for Canada Sports Hall of Fame. And I am one of the staff that has been with the Hall the longest over the last 5.5 years and was able to be part of this amazing project from design drawings on a piece of paper to the finished product, and was able to work with these two wonderful gentlemen and their teams to create a beautiful facility.
And speaking of relationships that we heard from the Big O, it's the same thing here. This kind of project takes a huge amount of coordination. So what we're going to do is walk you through a little bit about the project, and we are going to put it in context. So the Canada Sports Hall of Fame is a brand new building. It's located in Calgary Olympic Park in Calgary, Alberta. The Olympic Park really is a year-round experience for visitors as well as residents of Calgary. So the location of putting the Sports Hall of Fame there was a very wonderful, logical, synergistic relationship with the park. This is the Hall of Fame that represents all sports and recognizing all of the honored members of Canada sports. What you see here is an aerial view of the building in the park. It's a very powerful, dramatic building. We chose to develop the architecture with Stantec Architecture. They were partners with us, and was a wonderful relationship there, to develop the building that represented and really reflected the immersive experience of the exhibits. The way the building is laid out, and we'll speak to that, is it's a series of 11 galleries, and the galleries actually rise in the building, and so the building is canted, as you see here, really reflecting the visitor's experience of the galleries. Very powerful. We chose Canadian red as the marquee element of the box, and it really is a very dramatic building. You can see it from the highway, and it really represents the pride of Canadian sports. The way you get to the building is through a very dramatic and heroic spine, if you will, a circulation spine. It's the lobby area, and it brings you into a circulation space that gets you up into the galleries. And here you can see the actual building that's been completed. Before, what I was showing were renderings that we had developed as part of the project. So important project statistics, just to run through them very quickly. It's 44,000 square feet. Again, located in the Olympic Park. It opened on July 1st, 2011, on time and on budget. A very important piece. It took 36 months from the very beginning when this team was put together. We spent about a year in design and then 2 years during construction and media production. It cost around $30 million and had about 200 team members from the design and construction and all of the curatorial support with Janice and her team. Again, as I mentioned, it has 11 exhibit galleries. It represents 60 sports. Now, I don't believe there's a sports museum in the world that covers that, breadth and depth of athletics. That was really one of the major challenges of this project. We did have to do dual language, of course, French and English, and ultimately we were able to achieve a really rich, immersive experience with a very, creative, unbelievable media experience.
And media is a huge part of the visitor experience at the Hall. There are 55 unique media experiences. So over 11 galleries, you're looking at roughly 5 multimedia experiences per gallery. We use media in a lot of different ways to hit a lot of different goals. And we'll walk you through some of those, but we're looking to immerse people in an environment, surprise them with the use of media, looking to inspire them with storytellers, athletes, and that one-to-one connection, as well as produced films and videos, which we'll show you a little bit of, and then really engage them through interactivity. And we'll talk through a couple of those different types of interactivity, but really allow them a physical, digital, interactive experience.
So one of the hallmarks of our practice and working with Cortina, Cambridge 7 has partnered with Cortina in a number of projects. One of our hallmarks is this notion of immersive experience. We really want to take the visitor. It's probably not as dramatic as the Transformers immersive, but it's, it is immersive. So let's go forward. I want to walk you through the plan very quickly to orient you. Here's the floor plan of the exhibit gallery. We bring you through a entry tunnel, which is actually a very compressed space because it brings you into this very dramatic experience of entering into the Grand Hall, which is really the centerpiece of the building. The organization of the galleries is all around the Grand Hall. The Grand Hall serves as a wonderful immersive experience. You'll see the media treatment that we did in the Grand Hall. They use it for corporate functions, school groups, other opportunities. So it expands the use of the building beyond just a museum, and it really becomes part of the community. It's really the Grand Hall of the community. So we organized the sports. How do you take 60 sports and make it logical? Well, we started really by thinking about the seasons. And so we organized 4 galleries, which covered all the summer sports, or the warm weather sports. So you can see here we have splash, ride, motion, and bounce. And you can imagine that we carry a lot of rich exhibits for each of those galleries. We're going to show you some of these, so I won't spend too much time now. At the culmination, meanwhile, as you're going through these galleries, you are rising in elevation. So it reflects that experience of the canted volume of the building. At the pinnacle of it are the Olympics. In this case, we have a gallery that's dedicated to both Canadian Olympics and Paralympics, which is a really wonderful blend of both achievements. And then as you work your way around, you go to the winter sports. So we have a warm side and a cool side. We start off with the hockey gallery, which is a small sport in Canada. And then we move through contact, glide, and blade. So really a great experience of exploring all of those athletes. We come back to the Grand Hall at the end. We also have a changing gallery, which allows Janice to do a lot of flexible programming. We can bring in new exhibits and create a fresh experience for folks who come back numbers of times. And we also have a feature theater, which has a film that is really a wonderful introduction to the hall. From there, you take the exit tunnel back out, and you come into that wonderful spine, and it brings you right to the museum store, where you buy all of that Canadian merchandise and go on your way.
To give you a little bit of the spirit of the hall, we're going to show you a clip from the signature film, which plays in the theater. Most guests see that as the first thing that they do when they arrive. It's a 120-seat theater, and it's a 12-minute video production that really sets up all the mission and all the various ideas that we're trying to get across in the hall. Crank it up.
The other way.
It has sound.
No.
On the way out. I can hear it a little bit.
The sound is really important.
Yes.
Stop the clock. Yeah, here we go. Take 2.
Olympic record! JCJ Anderson won the biggest prize!
What a performance from the boys there!
Gaëtan Boucher, le plus grand athlète canadien.
That's the best Kyle Schuetbelt can be.
Jack Villeneuve! Wow! Gretzky has done the unbelievable!
Victory, Van Coubertin!
And it those northern dancers at Windsor Bayonet.
A red letter day in Salt Lake City.
Greatest night of our life.
Quelle descente de Bilodeau avec un temps canon 23-17 pour Alexandre Bilodeau!
We celebrate great moments.
Katrina Monet dome the gold. World record for Donovan Bailey and a gold medal.
We cherish and preserve our past.
Here's another shot, right by the score! And he's done it! Nobody in the whole country believes she can do it. She did it.
Will it be a world record?
Our rich sporting history
Yes!
inspires new generations to embrace their dreams.
So now we'll take you inside the building. Thank you.
So that was a little bit of, let's get the pulse racing. We love to get folks really jazzed up about what they're about to see. So that was just a little snippet of the feature film. It's quite dramatic. So what we do is we bring you into the project, and what you're going to see in these slides, and what we wanted to share with you is a little bit of process. What you see in the upper left-hand corner is actually a computer rendering that Cambridge 7 did as part of our design process. And actually what you're seeing there is the rendering of the tunnel, which is the entry into the museum. So that upper left-hand image is the rendering that we presented to the committee during the design process. And then what you see in the lower left-hand is actually the executed tunnel. And then what Stephen's going to show you is how we actually created an amazing experience in that tunnel. So here we go.
So we're projecting using 3-edge blended projectors onto the floor of the entry tunnel. And all the content is seen from above. This is one of those surprise elements, and it's one of the fan favorites. And all the motion leads you into the Grand Hall.
So this is on the floor as you're walking in. We've seen kids actually get on the floor and start swimming with the swimmers. I mean, Janice,
Yes.
right? It's one of the. It's actually sort of created such a little bit of a sensation that the people love it. Anyway, so then we take you from here into the Grand Hall. So this I wanted to show you. This is actually our computer rendering of the Grand Hall. This again was part of the design process, where we actually modeled the entire building. We're using Revit as our modeling technology in our projects. It allows us to represent the actual structure. In this case, the canted box, you saw that cantilevered red box, is a very robust structure with major trusses that are holding it up. And we actually wanted to keep those trusses exposed to make it a very athletic building. This is a Sports Hall of Fame, so the site should really have this sense of energy. So what we featured here is a 8 projection screen, overhead, rear projected experience once you come into the Grand Hall.
Yeah, so the design intent was to cover each one of these surfaces you see here full bleed with projection. It offered some technical challenges, particularly in terms of projection geometry, where we were working with not a huge throw distance behind. And Electrosonic, who was the systems designer and systems integrator, achieved the design intent magnificently. Here is some video of the Grand Hall in action. From a content perspective, we just tried to have a lot of fun with it. Very dynamic, set of screens. And we tried to move content around the space. There you see a bobsledder going down and wiping new content on, bringing things down in from the ceiling. So we've got about 20 minutes of content on this that loops. It represents all of our sports and offers some interesting different little looks and interpretations of sport as seen across this canvas, which we looked at as a singular canvas in terms of the multimedia production.
From the Grand Hall, you can really see into all of the galleries. So the Grand Hall is level and the galleries rise up around you. So there's this wonderful experience of being able to look into the various galleries. You kind of know where you are. There's not a mystery about that. You don't worry, am I missing something? At the culmination of the Grand Hall is the actual Hall of Fame. We chose not to do a sort of funereal bust type Hall of Fame. We chose to do a very interesting, dynamic presentation of the honored members. In this case, we used a faceted glass panel system where each honored member has their own glass element, and that is tied to the media, so it becomes a very rich experience for folks who want to research honored members.
Yeah, so there's almost 600 honored members in the Canada Sports Hall of Fame. So along with the beautiful physical representation of those honored members, we have 3 interactive kiosks that allow the visitor to search for someone and pull up content on them. And there's an updatable system associated with that that allows the hall to add members as they're inducted every year.
So given the time frame's a little short, we're not going to show you every gallery, but we do want to show you a couple of key ones. This is the Splash Gallery. Again, in the upper left-hand corner is the design rendering to show you a little process. And we really feel confident that we have the technology now to be able to do this designing in 3D and really get it into reality. So looking down below and looking to the right, you can see the actual gallery. In this case, we integrated the media up at the ceiling, these bubbles on the ceiling as part of the water gallery.
So here's an opportunity to use media to make people feel like they're underwater. There was a video playing down here, I don't know if you saw it, but all the content that we're projecting here on these ceiling circular screens is as seen from below in water. So again, using media to immerse people, give each one of these galleries a different feel. Here, we wanted people to feel like they were underwater.
Another interactive gallery is the Ride Gallery. This represented both horseback racing as well as Formula One racing. This is Jacques Villeneuve's car actually in the gallery. We actually got the Formula One into the building. That was a sequencing challenge in terms of construction. But this is a wonderful experience of immersing you right into the Formula One car.
In the video element you see here is a projection screen in front of the car, and the visitors have seats at eye level that the driver would be positioned around the car. And the video presentation is hosted primarily by Jacques Villeneuve, but it contains a lot of POV driving footage. So this was an opportunity, let's put people as close to being a Formula One race car driver as we can.
Around the corner, up in the hockey gallery, there's a wonderful museum. The Hockey Hall of Fame is in Toronto. We didn't want to sort of compete with them, so we sort of pictured and captured a different content for this Hall of Fame. And in this case, what we did was we had a display of game changers, and these were honored members, hockey players who really made an impact in the game of hockey. But again, to bring the folks right to the ice, we actually created a floor. You can see the sheet, it's almost as if you're walking on the ice, and we wanted you to walk amongst the players in life-size format with their uniforms. So this was a very less media intensive and more rich in terms of artifact and finishes for the space.
This next image is of the Contact Gallery, and that includes curling and boxing amongst other sports. So you can see kind of the creativity that had to go into tagging these sports, to fit into that group of 8. And this was anything that made contact with something else. But we show this because in the way back, you see one of our other multimedia experiences here. And we referred to these during the project as simulations. We wanted to have a series of exhibits that allowed people to do something physical. And they vary in degree of technology. The one here is hosted by Lennox Lewis. And the visitor stands in front of the projected light cone and casts their shadow on the wall. So as Lennox gives you a bit of a tutorial about how to box,
Hey,
you then get
I'm
to
talking
shadow
to
box
you.
with him.
Step up here. Let's do a little shadow boxing.
Bonjour, I am
This
Chantal
is an exhibit
Petitla,
where
wheelchair
visitors get to
racer
sit
and
in
member
a
of Canada's
Olympic
Sports Hall of
racing
Fame. Are
wheelchair
you ready
and get to
try my
compete
sport?
against
Use the wheels to advance
a
down
very
the track.
prolific
The
wheelchair
faster
racer
you
in
turn the
Canada.
wheel, the faster you'll go. So you think you can break my 100-meter world record time of less than 16 seconds?
It's hard.
This is 3D Catcher. So we shot original 3D point of view content with a pitcher. And the guest puts their face in a catcher's mask.
Pretty good.
It was outfitted with 3D glasses. They also put their hand in a glove, and at the moment of impact, they feel the impact. It's another 3D experience. We shot, again, POV 3D content with the Calgary Flames. And you put your head in a goalie mask, and in 3D, you get to see pucks flying at you.
It's fun.
And we didn't break the camera doing that.
That's amazing.
Ready to give it a shot?
Ski jump.
3, 2,
This is a young ski jump athlete. We shot POV, strapped him up with cameras on his helmet. And you get to stand in the position that a ski jumper would and experience that content. So you see varying degrees of technology utilized to do that, but trying to make a physical connection and using media to do that, especially to deliver a connection to an athlete who's giving you some tips on how to perform their sport.
Really bringing you to the sport and into the sport, and that's what it's about. So, another gallery, just to share with you sort of the richness of what we try to present, excuse me, is the combination of artifacts along with uniforms and information and sort of stories, if you will. And we have a series of story moments that happen all the way through in every gallery to really bring you to very important moments in Canadian sports history. This is the Blade Gallery, speaking about figure skating and speed skating. And again, we have a kiosk in front you can see here, which again allows you to interact. And we, Steve, why don't you go
Yeah, so
ahead?
this is another media type here. We refer to these as Ask the Athlete. There's 8 of them, one in each of the primary sport galleries. They have a very strong educational focus really on the science of sport. You meet an athlete, kind of walk you through the science behind their sport. And then we created original rigged 3D models of each athlete, and you get to, through a very intuitive user interface, you get to control that athlete in performing a task. We're running short on time, but just show you a little bit of what I mean.
Hi, I'm Joe McGinley.
I'm Karen Lee Gartner.
I'm Joel Anthony.
Hi, I'm Olympic champion Donovan Bale. Are you ready to run the 100 meters?
Before you attack the goal, let's talk about the 2 main shots.
You pull them in fast, and that makes you spin.
Your arm speed controls how fast you go. In physics, it's called the law of the pendulum. On your marks, set.
Jump! Big air.
And their feedback is based on how you're doing. And
Good shot.
They will chide you if you're not doing well.
Good shot.
Pedal faster. Okay.
You get the idea. So, very interesting.
So in order to be on time and on budget, we had a lot of challenges in order to make that happen. One of which is we had the Winterside Gallery display cases being installed at the same time we are installing artifacts in the Summerside. We had a very tight schedule, and these are some of the images of the staff doing installations. We had to still be wearing protective equipment because the building wasn't completely certified as safe to be in the gallery spaces. So it created a lot of challenges for our staff to be able to do that. We utilized, if you look at the top right photograph, space that was going to be our collection storage room ultimately, where we did all of our layouts. We did extensive mock-ups well in advance of our installation, so we knew exactly where every artifact would be placed, as well as the artifact mounts were created and labels. We also had a pre-opening, which was a requirement that was given to us by our Board of Governors. So on June 25th, even though the day before we're still in the midst of construction, the day of June 25th, the whole building was a beautiful facility. You could only walk in certain areas. You could see certain display cases. Some of those you couldn't see, didn't have anything in them, which didn't matter at that point in time. But it just shows the multifaceted use of the space. Our education programs and events have been absolutely outstanding since we opened the facility. I was updating Tim and Stephen today on the fact that this summer we're going to be opening 7 days a week because we can't accommodate the number of requests we have for groups to come and see the hall. And we are going to be fully booked throughout the entire summer, and which is very exciting. And our events are also extremely popular. They've made some beautiful use of our spaces. And as with every facility, as you open, there's new direction that happens. We went through, I guess one of the most drastic things that happened to us is that every single staff person except myself left the project. So I'm still the only one who's still involved from the very beginning, including CEOs. I'm now on number 4. So we've had a lot of change over a very short space of time. But with that change has come a new strategic direction, which is very exciting for us. We have a new tagline, Inspiring Canadians in Sport and Life. And we are talking a lot more about the values that each of our honor members instill, and sharing those values of teamwork, setting goals, and achieving, being the best you can be in life. And those have been very popular new directions for us.
Lastly.
We are surrounded by Canada's best. Let their stories, their achievements, and their pride inspire your dreams. We are Canada's Sports Hall of Fame.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Nice job. Well done.
We have time for a couple of questions.
What was the budget?
$30 million.
I just want to ask real quick, how did you handle, I guess, the bilingualness of Canada? Because you have French and English that are kind of used, it seems almost equally in Canada.
Yes.
So how did you handle
Every interactive experience is made to be started in either French or English. All the video elements are captioned either way. All the exhibit panels, every piece of text, each panel has a presentation of both languages. And then for some of the primary video pieces, they're both narrated in English and French.
I have a question. I'm here in the middle again. I want to bring it back to audio again because that's an important element. And you just talked about language, but in museum spaces like this, audio can be challenging because of the bleed through and whatnot. Perhaps you can talk about how your approach, maybe it was a bit of acoustics or a transducer device, but speak a little bit about audio.
Great question. Yes, acoustics were a big issue for us, and so our selection of materials that sort of fit out the interior of the building were sensitive to that. We used carpeting. We had acoustical bad insulation up in the cavity of the structure, and because we let the structure of the building really be a robust exposed structure, it allowed to carry some of that acoustics up. What you probably didn't see in some of those images, there were large cases that separated the galleries, and that actually also helped a little bit in the acoustical separation. That all being said, it's a very active museum, and it's meant to be that way. So there's a little bit of, we were okay with a little bit of bleed, sound bleed. We had some really good focused speakers where we needed it to be focused. So it's a pretty lively space, but you can definitely immerse yourself into an audio event without feeling too disturbed by the other galleries.
We also have a couple of exhibits that start as you get close to them, so they're not always running, so they're motion activated, and then others that are a push button activation as well. So that allows not the whole museum to be running audio at the same point in time.
Great.
Hi, do you hear me? Okay. Looks like a wonderful project, and I have a question about the media use, because when I first heard you talk about the extensive use of media in this project, I was surprised because of the the media versus the sport in a way of children's life, as it is very often said that they consume media more than doing sports. So I found it very interesting how you handled that, and I think it looks very good on how you still keep them active with that. Could you go into that decision a little bit?
Yes, without a doubt. I mean, as we do more and more installations like this, use of media is really used as an opportunity to give someone something they can't do at home. And obviously now you can do a lot at home, so we really try to create environments like this, using media to put them in a place where they can't be. When you say 55 media exhibits, as you see, as we kind of go through, they serve certain purposes, and so they begin to break out, and it doesn't feel oppressively media when you're in there. Because some things are environmental to the effect that you don't really look at that as this is a media event. But really with sport is motion, sport is moving imagery, and it's really the only way to represent this kind of content.
And the fact that we were doing 60 sports, there was only, how much information you get on a graphic panel or in a media or an exhibit case, for example. We really can't get that far, but the media opportunities really led us to drive really deeply. Folks will generally spend about an hour and a half going through this museum, but they could spend 6 hours if they went through every media event and drilled down on every element. It's a very rich catalog.
Hi, Michael Sharpie, XP. Great museum. A little bit of a chicken and egg question. Obviously, this is all based around the athletes and their accomplishments. Where did the list of athletes come from? Did you know who you were designing for? And at what point was that list decided, and how did it affect how you were designing the exhibits?
Well, the priority for all of our exhibits are to relate to our honored members. So every gallery has the majority of the content related to the individuals who've been inducted to Canada Sports Hall of Fame. However, we did add a current element to every gallery. So as we were making the decisions, we consulted with the national sport organizations and governing bodies and identified, asked them to help us identify whom in their sport world would be the people that they would like to see featured. So every single gallery still has a current athlete recognized. In some galleries, there's a few more, but the priority is still our people who've been inducted to Canada Sports Hall of Fame.
And briefly, the Hall of Fame actually existed, obviously, for many years, and so there was a catalog of athletes and stories and moments. This is really their new home, so we really brought forth a lot of that.
If I can add one quick thing to that, the athletes were really involved in the making of these experiences. So when you see Donovan Bailey or Kurt Browning in those interactives, we worked with them to develop that content. So the athlete's impression is all over. Even from the very beginning when design concepts were being developed, we did a lot of focus groups with athletes, with students, with educators to bring them in. So athletes were involved in setting the direction and then making sure the content was right.
One last piece is that we had, I know we're out of time. Are we done?
No,
All right, just
go
one
ahead
last-
and answer.
One last anecdote was that we had these beautiful sculptures, life-size sculptures representing some of the wonderful athletes, Barbara Ann Scott. One of the first sculptures you see is Wayne Gretzky, right at the top of the stairs. And so we had a great company called Studio Ice out of Brooklyn, New York, who did all these wonderful sculptures. And so there was a process of actually sculpting the life, realistic image. And we were sculpting Wayne Gretzky, and we had to get approval from Wayne Gretzky. And some of the athletes actually went to Brooklyn and looked at the sculpture being made, and they actually made comments, and we adjusted the sculpture accordingly. Wayne Gretzky did not come. He had his agent review it, and the agent approved Wayne Gretzky. So it ended up being a really exciting experience for everybody.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you,
Thanks,
Janice,
everyone.
Timothy, and Stephen. And we'll take a 10-minute break. Thank you again.